And I believe we have a caller on line one, as they say on Talkback Radio, and it's the Prime Minister. Are you there, Prime Minister?
Hi, John. How are you?
Yeah, good. I'm good. But the more interesting question is, how are you? Because you have seen the damage, and you are beginning, I expect, to get some assessment of both the human toll and the cost to the country. What is it like, what you have seen?
Pretty horrendous, actually, for the people of Kaikoura. If you think about, firstly, there are short, medium and long-term issues that we're going to need to deal with. There's 600 people at the welfare centre there, about 1,200 tourists we think trapped in there, no entry in or out of Kaikoura. Now, the issue here is we're deploying military assets. Canterbury will go down. We've got 3 NH-90 helicopters. We're flying in and out, and we'll be flying some fixed-wing King Airs because that's the only thing that can land at the airport. So we can probably get some people out, but the issue here outside of the short-term things, food and water and chemical toilets and the likes, is that the roading and rail issues north and south on State Highway 1 are horrendous. I mean, if you sort of turn your mind back to the Manawatu Gorge, I'd say it's the Manawatu Gorge plus some, and I saw at least 6 of that size north of Kaikoura. So it's a massive clean-up job.
It's a massive clean-up job, and of course Kaikoura is so busy over summer with tourists coming for all sorts of reasons, including the whale watching.
Yep.
It's also the main route, really actually the only viable route between Picton and Christchurch. So this is a disaster, and do you have any assessment from your officials yet as to how long it will be before State Highway 1 is open and working again? Because the aerial pictures we're seeing suggest really serious damage in some parts.
Oh, it's really serious. It took a long time for the Manawatu Gorge. And if you think about, we're looking at one major slip. Well, the road, you cannot see the road. So it's like the side of the mountain has engulfed the road. It's completely gone. And it's not just the hundreds of cubic metres of debris that would be on the road. It's the thousands that are above that. Literally an entire side of a cliff has either come down or wants to come down on the road, and that's just on one part of it. And you trace that the whole way along through the train tracks and the roads. Yeah. I mean, we have spent as a country broadly $45 billion on Christchurch. Now that was the built-up area of Christchurch, obviously, and retiring a lot of land. But it's very hard to believe with the level of infrastructure and all the other issues that we're facing, the bill is going to be less than a couple of billion. I might be wrong, but it doesn't feel like that to me.
As you were speaking, I was looking at precisely what you were talking about, the picture. So State Highway 1 really has become part of a cliff, hasn't it, in some parts? And so not only do you have to clear the road without really endangering the people working on it because of the risk from above, but then you have to minimise the risk of future falls in precisely the same areas. So this is a huge job of work. Prime Minister, you talked about the Canterbury before. Is that is that able to go into the little port at Kaikoura there and actually remove people, is it?
Well, that's what they're saying. They could use it as a sort of roll-on, roll-off ferry. I mean, firstly, we want to send her down with a bunch of sort of, everything from chemical toilets to provisions that are needed. Now, we can fly things in, but not the volume we need. Can't road them in easily. And so we're going to send her down. That's really about, it's 20 hours of sailing and the lights, but realistically, by the time she's going very soon, so it'll be a couple of days. And they'll be running these shuttles really on the NH90 with people and provisions. But as we know from Christchurch, the first issue here around places like the welfare centre is that not only are people physically exhausted, but you give them a few days of aftershocks and they get mentally exhausted. So they need more people to support them, to be blunt.
Prime Minister, I can hear you at the airport and you've probably got a flight to get onto. One last question. I guess it's around psychological reassurance and the sense of management, of a hierarchy within which the buck stops to get stuff done as fast as possible and for there to be a sense that stuff is getting done. In other words, how are you going to create a leadership team around this to ensure that what needs to be done happens as quickly as possible?
Well, at the moment, you've got some very good and very well-meaning people, so I don't want to take anything away from that. But just talking to Jerry when we landed in Wellington, I think both of us would agree that the size of the task here in this Kaikoura, probably Hamner area, because we didn't get to see Hamner, is so significant that I don't think it would be fair or reasonable just to leave it to the local people. I think there's just too much to get done. There's too many moving parts here. So I think we are going to have to think about exactly who we're putting in there. At the moment, very temporarily, extra police and the likes are being dispatched. But because of the sort of medium-term nature of this, I would have thought you're going to need more people to really make sure that every request is met. Because again, you'll remember Christchurch well. You covered it extensively. There's the short-term issues, but very, very quickly, people's emotions and get frayed, and people get very frustrated, and you can't help but blame them for that. They're living through it, and there's no novelty, but so much that it's a new thing. It wears off pretty quickly, and people want support, so we need to give them that.
So you've got an earthquake recovery minister. Well, is that a precedent for something you might do in this situation? Might you take someone from Cabinet and put them in charge and say, look, the buck stops with you, sort it?
If not a minister, although that's always a possibility, I think we need to think that through. There's just going to have to be a senior person that people can go to and say, okay, we need this, we need this, we need this, and we need it now. But yeah, someone's going to have to sit there. We're certainly going to have to get Simon Bridges as Transport Minister, and we're certainly going to have to get Bill, I think, down there as Minister of Finance, just to have a quick look, and Jerry will be back. I'll obviously be back at some point. But the point here is just that this is literally blocked off, and it's not a quick fix. So the inland road will be their best option very short term. But as you pointed out, I think we're going to have to go away and think a little bit about the businesses there. I mean, their whole livelihood really is based on tourism.
Yeah.
And at the very minimum, that's going to be heavily reduced for the next few months, I would have thought.
Prime Minister John Key joining us from the airport. Thank you so much, Prime Minister. We appreciate your time.